What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Franchise Empire newsletter. My name is Tarek Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire. I'm here with Mr. Mark Magerman. How are you, sir?
Hi, Tarek. Good afternoon. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. Hey, guys, sorry for starting out about 12 minutes late here. Had another meeting that was run over, but I promise you it will be worth the wait. And then we have some really valuable information and things to share with you today that I think will be helpful. So today, what we're going to cover a recession-resistant resale with a very strong brand. We're going to show a franchise that shows EBITDA of $613,000 in their FDD, according to their predecessor outlet that for the FDD issued March 28th, 2025. Make sure to throw out the compliant disclosures there. If you're looking for a scalable service business, we'll talk about that for a minute. And then we'll talk about the feeling after quitting your job and buying a franchise, which is the most recent podcast episode. Okay, the featured resale is a company called PrideStaff. And so PrideStaff is a staffing service. They offer temporary staffing, temporary to hire, direct placement staffing. Founded in 1978, began franchising in 1995, and now with over 40 years in the staffing business, which is pretty crazy. That's a long time, longer than I've been alive, ladies and gentlemen. Although I'm approaching it. So we're gonna start doing this more and more with resales, just because franchisors and sellers, they want to keep their stuff confidential. So if we say the city, it's so easy to tell where it's coming from. This resale is in Texas. The asking price is $695,000. The owner is retiring/moving. It was started around between 2018, 2019. We didn't have the exact date, but it's about 6 to 7 years old. The owner's percentage of sales, $634,000, because the way it works in the staffing business is that you actually, technically the sales are higher because it's the total income amount, but the owner of the franchise gets to keep a certain percentage of that. They have a markup on the labor, if that makes sense. And by the way, you people are asking, hey, what are good recession resistant, franchises? What will do well no matter what happens in the economy? Well, if you've never owned a business before, I know Mark has had a company of a couple hundred employees or something around that. And we'll pass it over to Mark to hear his take in a little bit. But every business, no matter what, no matter where things are in the economy, typically one of the biggest challenges for every company, no matter what industry you're in, is hiring and bringing on quality talent. You need quality talent if your business is struggling. You need quality talent if your business is stagnant. You need quality talent if your business is growing and exploding. No matter what, your business needs quality talent and labor, which is why this sort of business can do well regardless of economic conditions. If you want to know the location for this resale, or if you want to know more about the profit of the franchise, you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales and enter your information. We'll be able to help continue to the next step in the process to get the information you're looking for. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, you just said that is really impactful here. And I've got friends who are in this category. And what they say is that they feel, because obviously you're always hiring, the economy and the situation in the country now, people are still always hiring every single day. We tell our franchise owners all the time, one of the three-legged stools that you have to be focusing on when running your business is always be hiring. And these companies like PrideStaff, they have so much credibility to potential customers of theirs who need hire people, And a company like Pride Staff makes business ownership, it's one less thing a business owner has to worry about. If they have a good relationship with a Pride Staff, you call your contact at Pride Staff, you say, I got 4 jobs to fill. They're doing all the legwork for you. That's why these business owners love these companies. We used staffing services when we were hiring as well, and they just make tons of sense, especially when things are tougher like they are now. So these are really great opportunities and really legitimate business opportunities for you.
Yeah, 100%. We got let's see. We got a couple of questions. Before we get to the questions, let me just hit the rest of our take here. I already talked about this. That this could be considered a recession resistant area. This is a proven brand. Franchising for over 30 years, guys. So this isn't, they didn't just start franchising a couple of years ago. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is one of those. They got their systems established and locked in. Franchise staffing companies tend to have an advantage over majority of the industry, which is comprised of either large corporations and small independents. And because of the franchise, they have the strength of both, but without the weaknesses of either. Very interesting point.
It is. If I could add one other point to that,
sure.
Tar, and again, going back to my own experience using these types of companies, they usually come with guarantees. In other words, if the person that you're hiring doesn't work out, they after a period of time, they replace them for you. It just made it so much easier as a business owner. I was getting qualified people because this company was doing the screening and the qualifying. And that's why, again, it's an amazing opportunity because what you're doing is you're helping small businesses run every single day by helping them address the most important thing that they have in their lives, which is staffing. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's really, it was a godsend for us in our business.
Oh, so you guys used firms like this?
That's what I said. Yeah, there were firms that also specialized in hiring for restaurant support. We found them finally. We tried them out. You could argue and say it's not worth spending the money to hire someone to help you find people, but we ended up making more money. It ended up being more profitable for us to use a firm like Pride Staff than hire on our own because we were churning and burning people. Right? You get more qualified people. So we at Five Guys, when we were running our Five Guys business, used these services to help us. It just freed up our time and we got better caliber people. These people at Pride Staff are the experts. So if you're running a business, why wouldn't you use the experts? That's kind of how we played it out.
100%. Yeah. Use the experts. We just, we're getting ready to do a massive CRM migration. We just had a meeting earlier with some of the folks on our team. And what we talked about was for some of the real technical build out of it, we're going to hire specific contractors that are specialists in building out the workflow automations and the websites to not only protect the time from our team to focus on the business we have to run, but like these people are experts. They're going to be able to do it in half the time because they know the platform. So spend the money to hire the experts. There's a great book called Who Not How for anyone who wants to go out there, be an entrepreneur. Who Not How. And actually it's funny because I remember when I was trying to figure out where we were going to go with Franchise Empire and if we were going to create our own internal brokerage team. Not that you guys need to know what that means, but just stick with me and some of you will and you'll get it. But it was like, well, I don't know how to do that. And there's a lot of experience I don't have. It was like, so the Who Not How book, the concept is go find a who that already knows how to do the how. And so that led to me, finding Mark, and super glad that I did because, Mark knows how to do it and has been successful at it and awesome. So there's a power in finding who's in your business. Something that you guys need to know about this business, though, and this resale, SBA loans are not an option because the SBA requires the franchisor's receivables as part of the collateral for the franchisee's loan. So you would have to use like HELOC or ROBS or cash or whatever it is. If you're not familiar with those terms, we have a whole video. I have a bunch of videos on funding. But let me know in the comments below if you want me to drop the link for the funding. I have a complete guide. It's like a 35-minute video breaking down all the different funding methods, how they work, pros and cons, and everything if you want to know around the funding side of it. On Pride Staff's website, they list what their difference is. What they list is personalized support, innovation, leading edge technology, agility. I like that word, agility. Large territories, favorable royalty, franchisee friendly agreement, and culture. So I'm not going to elaborate on all those points because I don't know their business like they do, but that's what they list as their core advantages and their difference.
And again, I think I made the comment every time we go over these resales, but I'll say it again. It's if you're interested in this brand and you wanted to reach out and you wanted to you had a chance to speak to the franchisor or the franchisee, it's in your best interest to already have at least something from a bank that says you're financially qualified to make that purchase on the resale. Because again, there's going to be a lot of people that will not. Those people, I promise you, will go to the bottom of the line in terms of the franchisee, in terms of who they want to sell it to. So you're just going to give yourself an added, you're going to move yourself up on the list if you have that.
100%. 100%. Okay, we had a couple of questions real quick, and then we'll dive into the franchise showing the high EBITDA. Can you clarify what the nice picture? That is hilarious. That was really funny. It looks like it was AI created, and it looks like it's a little doggy smoking a you-know-what.
Not a little doggy. That's a big doggy. That's a golden. That's
oh, is that that is a golden, huh?
That's no little dog. That's a big boy or girl.
That is such a cool picture.
That's a cool picture.
Okay, can you clarify what the owner percentage of sales means? I think I did earlier, but basically, that's the franchisee split. Technically, there's a higher amount of revenue that's generated because of the cost of labor, but the franchisee, their portion of revenue is represented by the markup, and that's the portion that that they receive is the markup on the labor. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't know that I have a better way of explaining it. Mark, do you have does that make sense to you?
No, it does. Yeah, it's unique in the industry, and they'll explain it more to you if you have the opportunity. But Tarek, you're right. That's what the owner gets to keep.
Cool. What is the distinction you draw between profit and EBITDA? So the term EBITDA is a technical term which stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So that's usually the number that you will see on your profit and loss statement. Net profit technically is adding in the cost of interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization. But the thing is that like, let's see, like depreciation and amortization at least depreciation, like that's a phantom expense. Like depreciation is not coming out of your business account. It's not showing up as you're not actually pulling that expense. It's something that you put on your tax returns. So you won't see that there. Also, you typically won't see well, I guess it depends. No, you will see interest on the profit and loss, but you won't see your taxes on profit and loss, like your personal taxes. You won't see your business taxes on your profit and loss either, actually. So that's where everyone wants to know profit, but profit, it's so deceptive and complicated because it's a number on a piece of paper that's not necessarily real. And profit does not mean cash flow, and we are not going down that rabbit hole right now, but totally different. Am I wrong, Mark?
You're not wrong. You're right. And when you look at these resale opportunities, if you get into it, it comes down to seller's discretionary income. What's left over when all the bills are paid? And when you buy a resale, it's also important if this owner of this franchise is taking a salary of whatever amount of money that is, that's going to get added back, because if you buy the company, that amount of money doesn't continue to go into the hands of the owner. It becomes the new sellers. So seller discretionary earnings, SDE, is more important, I think. And again, you're right. We don't want to go down the rabbit hole. We can get into a whole meeting, which may be a good topic for us to do on understanding how to, look at the financials. But yeah, profit is very nebulous. It's really about how much cash is left over when the expenses of the business get paid. That's what you want to know, because that's what you're buying.
And some great points. And so, not to beat this horse too much, but as an example, when there's so many ad backs that could be thrown in there, and just to give you a couple random examples where like you can look at someone's profit and loss and it doesn't tell the story unless they show you something with the ad backs. Yesterday I played golf. I played golf with a guy who he's a friend and a client. So do you think I paid for golf out of my personal account? No, I use my business card to pay for it because I'm playing with a client. It's a business expense. I'm networking. I'm connecting with the client, right? Like that would be something that would be considered an ad back. During our kids' spring break, we had a dinner with our friend's family, one of my friend's family, but he also has become a center of influence, referred me to a bunch of people. So now he's a center of influence. So now I'm taking out a center of influence for dinner. It was a fairly expensive dinner. And now all of a sudden, so that becomes something that you would typically then add back in, but I'm getting personal benefit from it. If you go to a business conference, like here in Orlando, right, they have a ton of conferences. Franchisees often will come here for their annual conference because that's where the franchisor is hosting it. Well, let's say your franchisor hosts their annual conference here, and okay, you pay $1,000 for plane tickets. Let's say the franchisor just so happens to say we're going to subsidize the hotel costs. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, whatever. But you go, hey, we're going to spend another week there, and we're going to go to Disney. Well, all of a sudden, like you figure out a way to justify that because it's a business trip. And so now your $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 vacation that stemmed from you traveling for a business trip may talk to your tax person, right? I'm just throwing out random possibilities here. So the disclaimer is you should always seek tax advice to see if this is something you can do. But all of a sudden, that becomes something that is shown up on your profit and loss statement. And unless you're trying to sell, you don't need to have people that don't know about running businesses want the profit and loss to say a high number. People who know about running businesses want it to say as low of a number as possible while getting the most amount of benefit. Because the higher the number it says, the more money in taxes you pay. So, okay. All right. Next. Let me take this little banner away. Whoops. Okay, let's see. Mark, this was one of yours. This was your TJ. Can you tell us about the journey of TJ and his kind of hero's journey of becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, TJ is a really, really nice guy, and we were really glad we were able to help him. He and his wife were, the typical story we get is, I'm just tired of the corporate life. I can't get my family time. I want to put my future in my own hands. That's what we get all the time. TJ really meant it, and he gave me specific examples of why he was frustrated. And we actually spent some time with TJ looking at several different brands. We talked about the benefits of service brands. We looked at some home service brands. We looked at a couple of senior service brands, and we looked at a couple of pet service brands. He was attracted to one. I'm not going to say the name of the brand, right? Because we don't want to say that on this call. Correct, Tarek?
Yeah.
Making sure? Yeah. So I'm not going to say the name of the brand, but one of the ones that's one of our favorite ones here at Franchise Empire. We've worked with them many times in the past. And they had a component of their business in which they gave back to the community as a part of what they recommend franchise owners do. This was really attractive to TJ and his wife. And he'd never invested in a business before. Frankly, he was very nervous, like a lot of our candidates are. The brand did an amazing job of holding his hand. I think we did a really good job of working with him. And when he made that decision, I've never seen anybody more proud of the fact that he felt that he accomplished his goal His quality of life came back. It's really a Monday through Friday business. He's got his family back. He's going to kill it. He's in the south of Dallas area. He's going to do really, really well. I couldn't be more proud of him because there were many times that he just was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep my job because this seems overwhelming. And again, he made a great choice of using Franchise Empire, a little toot of our own horn. But at the end of the day, it was the comfort level he had with the brand, the component about giving back into the community, the benefit of helping pet owners, and the ability of building a quality life for him and his family. And now TJ is up and running, getting his business started. I hope he gets ready to actually open his doors before the summer gets here.
Super exciting. I love that we'll be sharing more and more the folks that you've worked with. Speaking of pet services,
Excuse me, pet services is my dog barking in the background. Sorry about that. I don't know why he's all of a sudden all hot and bothered. Apologize.
It's all good. I think that's the first out of all the meetings we've been on. I think that's the first time I've ever heard your dog bark too.
Well, yeah. I was going to make a joke, but I'm not. Obviously something's got him a little bothered. Maybe he didn't like the fact that I was attracted to that photo of that other golden, because we have a chocolate lab downstairs. So maybe he's a little jealous. I don't know. Sorry about that.
Oh man. Okay. Franchise of the week. This is one that Mark and I are both familiar with. I think we covered it a few months ago. But they're really out there doing big things and really going above and beyond in the manner in which they support their franchisees and just how much they care. So Mark, tell us about Voda.
Well, the first thing I always tell candidates about Voda is the executive leadership is so franchise focused. But more than that, the CEO now, the gentleman running the brand, started his career by owning, operating, and perfecting a lead generation business. So these guys are really excellent at helping franchisees find leads for their business. Hello, what a great benefit. On top of it, they're smart enough. It's called Voda Cleaning and Restoration. I know last week we talked about a restoration company, Tarek. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about the benefits of restoration. There's a lot of really good benefits of restoration. If there's one pause in restoration businesses that people sometimes keeps them from moving forward, it's cash flow, right? Because restoration jobs, people don't hire you to do restoration jobs unless they have an emergency need. So while very profitable, it can be sporadic when you're starting up your business for cash flow. So what Voda did is Voda kind of came up with two businesses in one, the restoration side and the carpet and floor cleaning business, they have two distinctly different branding messages, which is wonderful. But the cleaning side of the business helps franchise owners get in, start generating recurring revenue, ongoing cash. B, you're also generating great feedback and great customer service in the community. Then when the restoration jobs are needed, Voda's kind of primely positioned to take advantage of that. So two businesses in one, which is really smart strategy and leadership that not only focuses on franchisee success, but have tremendous experience with generating leads.
Yeah, 100%.
You want me to keep going?
Please.
Okay. So again, started out in 2009 as a non-franchise business. We love these kind of businesses. Why? This isn't about somebody saying, hey, I'm going to develop a franchise and start selling franchises and getting rich. This is about somebody who started an amazingly good business, and because they perfected it, were able to springboard into franchising. So that 14-year gap means they had 14 years to perfect this model before starting to franchise it. And boy, it is selling off the shelves in terms of territories. They still have one that's a company-owned territory. They awarded over 150. Think about this, 150 awarded since 2023. That's amazing. It's almost Herculean, right? Sometimes it takes 4 to 5 years to get up to that number, and sometimes brands never get to that number. So they've awarded 150. Over 59 of them are open. And this is based on, oh, this is taken from 2025. Okay, I was going to say, this is the new FDD. So this is current, which means in just those 2 years, they've done an amazing job. Franchise fee, 59.5. That's relatively standard. 7% royalty, 1% brand fund, also very standard. You're all in for under $360,000. So it's still a very affordable franchise business. And like I said, it's one of the more popular franchises in the country. And the reason we know that, Tarek, is we got candidates who are interested in it. And sometimes we can't even find territories anymore because they've done such a great job of selling them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100. Yeah. It's super true. And I've got two past clients here in Florida that I keep in touch with, both of them. Actually, I've done podcasts recently with two of them, Nina and her husband, Brent. I did the podcast with Nina, and then Ferris. And they both did Voda. Their territories are adjoining too, so they've developed a good relationship. And I know they're out there working hard and grinding and have a lot of really great things to say about the culture, the support, all of that jazz. And then I spent some time with their CEO like a week and a half ago, maybe. And just hearing some of the things that they're doing and the way they support their franchisees, I think they're doing things right. They care. Like, their most important thing is they care about the success of their franchisees. And it's funny. Sometimes people will look at franchise agreements and get really spooked about signing them and want to try to negotiate a bunch of things out of it. What's interesting, franchise agreements are interesting because it's what you have on paper, right? Yes, you're legally agreeing to it, but most of the great franchisors, assuming you're not a schmuck and you guys have like a decent relationship, if you're having a hard time or if something's happening, or they're typically not going to enforce something that they think will hurt you. And I think that's something that's really important to note. And Dan had told me about a couple of things of ways that they'd gone above and beyond to help franchisees. Here's one instance when I was a franchisee, just so I can be safe in how I'm saying things and compliant. Our franchisors, we had to spend 2.5% of our sales in local marketing, outside of our royalty, outside of our brand fund contribution. It was, you have to spend 2.5% on local marketing, and you have to submit proof and receipts. Not once did they ever ask, Tarek, where's your receipt? Where's your proof that you spent 2.5% on local marketing? And I often did not spend 2.5% on local marketing. But if you were doing things out there to grow your business and putting some money into it, like, they weren't going to beat down your door to say, hey, why aren't you spending 2.5%? And we're going to fine you, right? So that's just kind of an example. All right. Numbers. You guys are like, shut up, man. We just want to go over the numbers that are on the screen. Okay. This is for the Predecessor outlet, meaning their corporate unit that had started back in 2009. And so what it shows is 2022, 1.7 million in revenue, 2023, 2.4, to 2024, 2.7 million. The FDD goes over a bunch of the details of expenses, so on and so forth. But when we then break it all down, you can see the adjusted EBITDA after the royalties. And in 2024, that corporate unit, the Predecessor, did 613,000 in EBITDA. And they've stayed around that 22, above a 20% margin there. That is factoring in 7% royalty, 2% brand fund contribution. Now, guys, yeah, they've been in business since 2009, right? So people that come in expecting overnight or first year success like this, come on, guys, be realistic. Like, when you got started in your corporate career, were you making what you're making now in year 10? Probably not. Like, it took time to get there, right? But it's great to see what the potential is. And we already know that the restoration space overall has a lot of financial opportunity in that space. Then they also list out the average gross revenue. This is the first time in their previous FDD. This is why I put this in the in the newsletter again, because when we highlighted this a few months ago, the 2025 FDD was not out. We were capped at looking at their 2023 numbers, and none of this was here. So finally, they have franchise businesses to report. And for a 12-month period from February 2024 to 2025, you've got average top 25% average gross revenue 800,000, top 50% 650, bottom 50% 290, bottom 25% 241,000. In the actual FDD that we took this from 2025, there's all sorts of asterisks around defining the specific amount of franchisees that actually reported. What's crazy is the highest grossing revenue business did $1 million. They just started franchising in 2023, and this person already hit $1 million in revenue. And I confirm this is collected, because revenue could be tricky. Revenue could be defined as, if you're doing an accrual-based accounting, it doesn't have to be collected cash in the bank. It could just be what you've invoiced. This is collected, which is cool.
Also very interesting, because as we talk about restoration, sometimes you're waiting a little bit longer to get that money. So I would say that these numbers could even be higher if you factored in receivables, because it could be money that's on the come that you don't have yet. And just as a point, if anyone has a question, you legally have to be a franchisee operating for a full calendar year to be able to be included in the FDD, which is why this is the first year that Voda is able to do it, because as Tarek said, they just started in 2023. So for the 2023 year, they didn't have that, which is great. So this is the first year that Voda is running out an FDD with real live franchise numbers. I can only imagine it's just going to even soar on their level of popularity now that people see first year revenue numbers of $1 million. It's pretty exciting.
It is. Yeah, it is exciting. Cool, guys. And as always, we're going to go through some of the benefits around Voda and the specifics of their brand. But if you want to see if they have your territory that you would like still available, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. The link that is there. And yeah, you can do that. And then we'll be able to check and see if your territory is available, or if you just want to find out, hey, what franchises outside of this are available. Then we can check on that too. You want to talk through? I know you talked through some of them already, Mark. You want to speed through these?
Yeah, again, 2-in-1. It's the carpet and floor cleaning, which allows you to produce revenue out of the gate while you're waiting for that restoration business to kick in. Key territories are available, but they are dwindling. I know our candidates that I've had a lot more trouble finding availability because they're very successful. So I guess this is me saying, if you ever thought about franchising and you're really interested in Voda, there's no time like the present. Because my guess is that this brand, a year or two from now, may have 350, 400 territories and no availability anymore. I think that's really what's going to happen.
Sold out.
Recession resistant, need not a want. 14,000 people experience water damage every day. That's why the restoration business is so profitable. They obviously have the technology suite, the analytics. I'm not going to get into it. They're happy to show that to you, but it's cutting edge. And then again, the marketing, lead generation, appointment setting support, based by the CEO who had his career starting in the lead generation arena. They're expert at it. And they also have a commercial outreach. In addition to a call center, which is answering phones, they have a commercial outreach portion of their business, which means they're actually making outbound calls to try to help out franchisees. That's great. I don't know that can go on forever based on the quantity of franchisees, but for now, it's what they do. And franchise owners who have gotten invested in Voda have mentioned to me that that's a major benefit for them, and one of the major reasons why they joined.
Yeah, 100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, the most recent episode of the Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast. This was an episode we titled it Feeling After Quitting Your Job and Buying a Franchise. And this was an episode with Nancy and Troy, who were/are clients with us. They wind up, Troy had started a business before, he didn't want to continue with it, or didn't go exactly the way he wanted. they decided to look into franchising. To make a long story short, became franchisees, and we did this podcast after they became franchisees. So you get to understand the feeling of after Nancy quit her job and they're getting everything up and running and set up, and just what does it feel like? What does this moment feel like? What are they doing? So many people always ask that and want to know, like, what's it like afterwards, and what are you doing, and what's your day to day, and what are the emotions, and how long does it take to get ramped up? It's a great episode to get inside the mind directly of someone who's living it. You can watch it on YouTube by going to the Franchise Empire YouTube channel, which you should probably already be on. This is the episode here. Make sure to subscribe to that channel, and you can catch it on any of the podcast platforms that you listen to podcasts by typing in 02 Profitable Franchise Podcast. With that said, that's all we got for today. Mark, thanks for joining. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. See you
Have
on
a
the
nice
next one.
week. Goodbye.
Likewise. Thanks. Bye.